All right, so welcome to the March 2022 Idea Share from Key Ministry. I'm Beth Golick, and my Catherine colleague Boyle. My colleague Catherine Boyle is with us as well. And thank you everybody for being here. So I do have a couple questions, but if anybody else wants to start with anything that they, any like cool things they want to share, or any, problems or struggles you're going through, feel free to go ahead and shout it out. I'll look for hands. That's my sister's dog in the background. All right, then I'll go ahead and start. Let's talk about Easter, because boy, that's coming up quickly, isn't it? So here we are in Lent, and does anybody have, is your church just, back to pre-2020 Easter, or what's it looking like for you these days? I got kind of a.
Oh, sorry. Hey, can you guys? This is Bronwyn.
Yeah. Hey, Bronwyn.
Over here in California. Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm on the phone, so it's a little tougher. But we're planning on Palm Sunday, so before the week before Easter, we usually have a segment of the worship service where kids come up to the front of the stage and we kind of do a thing with them on Palm Sunday. However, right now, the way our church is set up, we have some indoor, there's the service going on indoors, and then we have a large patio on the outside for people who want outdoor seating, and that's where a lot of our families will sit. And so I've been thinking through, how do we do this? How do we engage people in this way, knowing there are people outdoors who may not want their kids to come inside with unmasked people or whatever is going on? How do we affirm and include people who are participating in different locations within the church? That is something we have not had to do before. And Christmas Eve was a little bit different the way it went, but for Palm Sunday, I'm like, oh, this is going to be different. So I haven't come up with a great solution yet. So I'm glad you asked that question.
All right. Well, I'm glad you're thinking about it, and maybe others will have some ideas to share with you. I know out in California, you have the benefit of being able to do, service outdoors. So you've been able to do a lot of things outdoors. We're just praying it doesn't snow for Easter in Cleveland, but
yeah, wow, that's a whole different life. We are outside. Ministry outdoors is very normed out here. So how do you integrate all that?
Right. Anybody else, or does anybody have any ideas to share with Bronwyn? Yeah, Diana. Hey, how are you?
Good. Yeah, we are back to pre-pandemic normal. So we're going to have 2 Good Friday services and 7 Easter services here, with one of them being outside. We have a park, and so it'll be out in the pavilion. They did that for the first time last year, and it was super heavily attended. So I'm going to just leave the sunrise outside service alone, but we will provide sensory rooms available for all the other services. So those 8 services, and so that will be good for us. But in terms of Bronwyn, I just can't wait to hear what creative things she's going to come up with.
I know, right?
And so I don't have any ideas for that. Although, and I know this is kind of rushing it, but it's just really been on my heart, is to we talked about it last year, Beth, with your sensory friendly service that ended up kind of falling aside.
Yeah.
But it's just been on my heart, and I just keep praying about it, that is such an important thing. And I really want to start gathering more data and information and find out what other churches are doing sensory sensitive type services. I would like for us to do one every weekend, like at our 8:30 Sunday time. And I just keep hearing things, and I was approached by a young man that we've talked on the phone at length, but haven't met in person. He has a form of epilepsy that's triggered by flashing lights, which is not uncommon. And he loves our church, but he cannot come to our church in person because of all of our services being so, yesterday was almost like God was just speaking to me, because it was so over the top with lights. And I just was like,
Wow.
how many people can't come? And I mean, and I see people listening in the lobby. So anyways, I'm kind of throwing that out there, but if anyone has ideas on that or how I can put together, I don't want to just come up with, like this is something we should do. I want it to be like for our senior leadership to catch on. It's almost going to have to be like that they're hearing that this is the cutting edge thing to do.
Right.
Because that's what they want to be. So any resources on that, and I'm going to start researching it more and that kind of stuff.
So I think this is a great topic for us to talk about. And I'm actually hearing a couple different things. So, you're talking about like the lights and everything and I assume sound level is part of that. But so there's, doing a sensory friendly service is one thing, and we can talk about what that might look like. The other thing is talking about more like a universal design kind of thing. Like, what can our services look like, not just for those with disabilities, but what can we put in place that benefits everybody, including people with disabilities? And, like, are strobe lights appropriate? Is that something maybe we just discontinue the use of, and that opens up the possibilities for so many more people? I don't know. So let's talk a little bit about sensory friendly services, and what does that term mean to you, and what are some ideas that you have? And feel free to share if you have done this, if you've attended one, if this is something you're looking to do. Let's just make this a brainstorming session. So Meekins, hello.
So I just wanted to say, in agreement with you, Diana, and the sensitivity for this young man with epilepsy, it is so broad in terms of who is offended by some of those things that are going on in our churches right now. And I'm one of them. I am a little sensory sensitive, and and that is not anywhere near what some of our other people that we know and love have to deal with when they're in a church service. And I was just sitting there yesterday morning, and of course the young people are going crazy and they're having a great time, and it really isn't having anything to do with young or old, but they were having a blast, including Amy, who has a hearing loss and loves it when it's loud. But so in that case, it's the opposite. But I was really having a hard time. I could not look at the stage because of the lights and how they were shining, and you couldn't anticipate them. So it's not like you can look down. And so I know I'm preaching to the choir here because y'all have seen this. And I just want to say that I think it's not just the disability community. So if we're going to make an appeal to the leadership or whoever's in charge of these lights and the sound, that we can appeal to a larger audience, I think.
Yeah, I even told Julie next time bring her sunglasses. Maybe that'll work. We're catering to a college university community, so I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. But yeah, it can be a difficult.
But if we all brought our sunglasses, do you think that might give a message?
Send a message.
Yeah, that's a really, and I'm the same way. I can't stand that kind of. And it's, I'm not going to get a seizure because of it, but boy, I don't like it. Yeah. All right, who else? Does anybody's church offer, like, take some of these, some of these things into consideration, like the level, the sound level or lighting or anything like that? Like, has that been a discussion? Catherine, can you tell us anything about what your church is doing?
Yeah, I mean, a little negative story and then, kind of a good story. So years ago, there was a young man in our youth group who actually had a seizure triggered by the lighting. And so that did prompt some changes, as you can imagine. We had a time where there was like significantly more than we have now. And some people left the church over it. I mean, that's really sad, but anyway, I get it, because like I get headaches from too much light in my eyes. So, I totally understand. I mean, Julie, I'm right there with you. We actually have people at our church age-wise. And so like once a month now we have, I mean, it's kind of sad in a way if you think about it, but we have a traditional service once a month that is like not on Sunday. It's like on a Thursday morning, I think. I mean, it's at a time when people who, you know, are older and want the hymns and, you know, from a hymn book and that kind of thing are able to participate. And so, you know, that's a solution that we've come up with that, you know, has worked for a lot of the people in our church. And I will say, you know, I could totally do without the whole light thing. We don't do the fog. I think we used to do the fog. And I kind of hated that because like there was no fog machine when Jesus was preaching, you know? I mean, I sort of don't get it. It doesn't have to be like a rock concert, but nobody asked me, right? So anyway, but I consider it a step in the right direction that we don't have as many lights. They're not blaring in your eyes anymore. And we have this other alternative for people who really desire that.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Anybody else?
I have to say that our church does do older folks services. I don't consider myself an older folk
That's
yet.
the problem. We are.
So,
An evening service.
but they do an
Yeah.
evening service, and I think that
Traditional.
they also do like a lot of senior activities, so that helps them. But what about the people who aren't seniors?
Right.
You know, so that's what we're talking about here.
Right.
This is
Yeah, Julie,
Oh.
go ahead.
yeah. Oh, thank you. This is Patrick Collinsborg from Rochester, New York, and I'm thinking about the universal design concept, especially for people with physical disabilities. And I know in a lot of traditional churches with raised chancel areas with lots of steps to get up and down, and sometimes higher pulpits and lecterns for reading. It makes it difficult to get up and down for people with disabilities to participate, especially wheelchair users.
Mhm.
Thinking about people with disabilities who may even be the pastor of a congregation.
Yep.
To universally design, have chancel areas that are actually on the ground without any stairs or anything. It would just make it easier for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. And we've had some of those discussions at our church because even like recently we were recognizing a couple, it was a pastor that was retiring and his wife, and he basically said, you know, I don't want my wife having to walk up the stairs to, you know, so we're going to, you know, so they modified the service to be down on the floor, but wouldn't it be great if like stairs weren't, like if it was something else, a ramp or, you know, however the stage is designed so that, again, it benefits everybody, which is what the concept of universal design is. So yeah. So we've been talking about, talking about physical structures as well as some of these other things. So yeah, Ron, when you were going to say something.
Oh yeah, I was going to say to the Meekins point, you know, we have at our church every Sunday we have a contemporary service, which is like probably what, you know, like mainline, whatever, you know, worship and all that good stuff. And then we have a tradition service, which is like the hymns and it's just got a piano and a choir and all those things. And it is accessible, but like, you know, it tends to trend toward like, you know, and there's no families really that go. There's some, but not a lot. And not very frequently. It tends to trend toward like older, and that's like fine and good and all of that. But I think, you know, if we're saying like, oh, hey, we have everything available, it's like we do, but like, is it like actually like accessible? Like, I don't know, right? So I think there is that like, yeah, what if you're not a senior? Or what if you're not, you know, a college student? Like, what if you're not, like, what if you fall outside of the majority of your church? Like, where is that for you, right? I think that's where where disability comes in and all these things. Like, if you fall outside the majority, like, where is the place for you, right?
Yeah. So this kind of brings up an interesting, like a challenge for us maybe, but So, and if you've just joined us, we started talking about like, what's Easter going to look like for you, for your church. And then we kind of got into talking about some things that our churches may do that aren't particularly welcoming for some people, like strobe lights and really loud music, that type of thing. But the idea that making some of these changes or making some things more accessible can really benefit a lot of people, not just, you know, those that that some people are thinking of, like people with disabilities kind of thing. How can we communicate that to our church leadership? Like, I think this is where we can really change the church. Like, if we can help our senior leadership see like small things we can do to change our churches to be more welcoming. So yeah, Al, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I had a very interesting conversation a couple weekends ago. We had a men's conference at the church we're at now, and it was a seminary prof from Dallas Seminary, which is one of the bigger seminaries in the US. And he mentioned he's writing a book on disability. And so of course I had to ask him about that. And he admitted that he's kind of, well, he is ADD-ish. So it's like his wife kind of keeps him on pace and things like that. Like if he's going too long, stuff like that. So just, you know, on a seminary level, which is like a way up there, but that's a good thing that, you know, at Dallas, there's at least one guy trying to push that. And, you know, if the seminarians are getting it at seminary, then that's going to influence long-term, you know, all our churches, things like that. So
yeah, the next generation of leaders. Yes.
right. So
Yeah.
I was very encouraged by that. I got his information. We're going to be in contact, things like that. But, you know, that's a bigger level thing, but it's encouraging that this guy's in charge of placements at Dallas and things like that too. So he's in a pretty strategic position there.
That's great. Cool. Thank you. That's very encouraging, Al. Thanks.
I think something to think about too is even if we can't think of somebody in our congregation who's like in a wheelchair and wants to be on leadership, like what does it communicate if we don't have that figured out beforehand? Like if somebody in a wheelchair is looking at the stage and there's only steps to it, like even if we don't have somebody, it communicates that like we're not prepared and we're not thinking about that.
Yeah, Haley, thank you. That's a really good point. Thank you for sharing that.
I have an example of maybe how this has played out over here. So we have a very, very large field that is connected to our church as part of our church property, and it usually just like houses weeds and all kinds of stuff. And it's been really unusable. And you know, during pre-pandemic, we had a lot of students, you know, that were runners. We had, you know, preschoolers. We had kids that we just couldn't take them out and use the field because there was no fence, and the parking lot is there and the street, and there's like an apartment complex and all these places that kids could run to, and it's not good. However, during COVID, our preschool here, we have an inclusive preschool. We said, well, we're going to move all of our ministry outdoors. That's the only way we could reopen this preschool safely in 2020 in the fall. So we said, hey, we're going to rent a fence. Like a construction fence, because we need to keep people safe outside. So it was kind of like, well, okay, the fence is gonna be ugly and all that, and it is, but like, you know, okay, like aesthetic, but it's like, okay, let's see how this goes. So we installed it, and obviously the preschool benefited from it. And when we kind of introduced more in-person ministry, people started coming because their kids were able to do ministry safely outside. And we got so large that a family came to us and said, hey, we would like to see this entire field, it's not half the field, we'd like to see this entire field fenced in so we could use the entire space and you could have more kids here and keep them safer. And so we got the funds and we put this gigantic fence, and now they're talking about putting a permanent fence in. And this is space that we had like never used before because it was unsafe for like the inclusion population, it was unsafe for the preschool population, but now like everybody, like children, youth, adults, like gets a benefit from it. And not that those like conversations and that process was like super, super easy, but I think it was like over time, like hearing like, you know, whoever needed to hear in the church, right, from different people, like, oh, hey, this is like, this could benefit this population, this could benefit here, and like, here's how we could do it. So it's, you know, it's a fence, but it like has allowed us to do so much ministry so much more safely. So.
It's so cool. And you know what I'm going to say next. Am I right? Pandemic blessing right there. That's so cool.
I can't see your hashtag, but I trust.
Oh, you know I did it. You know I did it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Yeah, our church had this little courtyard area that we like literally never used. It was just, and it's, you know, it's not as big as your field, Bronwyn, but same, like now it's part of what we do, because we, you know, back in 2020, we were like, how are we going to even have a meeting with people? And we opened up the courtyard, and now it's like part of how we do ministry. So yay. Does anybody else have like things that have physically changed at your church because of this that you've opened up? Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, this is awesome. What else? Does anybody have any like tips to share with, like, I love how Bronwyn, like that example, like it started out to serve, you know, a very specific function, but then people realized the benefit to the church as a whole. Any other examples of that, or how we can have these conversations with senior leadership? Or is anybody trying to do this, want to do this at their church? Al.
Yeah, we're at a new church for us, at least a year compared to where we were before. But just, no, I went to like not quite the new member course, but kind of get to know the church, and all the staff were eventually in there, stuff like that. And I mentioned that we go to the church because they're a special needs program. And yesterday I talked after church to the executive pastor's wife, who has a son about my son's age. And she was really interested in having my son mainstreamed into his class, things like that. So just little by little, trying to have impact on this church that at one time had a bigger special needs ministry, and just being there and getting our son involved, and you know, just talking to different leaders as we can about appreciating their buddy break that they do and other stuff. And I think there'll be opportunities to talk more about universal design and things like that as we just get more connected and get involved there.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Al is like the ultimate networker. I love how you work. I love how you connect people. And so awesome job. And thanks for sharing how that's going for you.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just listen to all this. So a wise person told me, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, I was stepping out to do something new, and this gentleman said, and it's just really resonated with me all these years, that if God is calling you to do something new, then normally he gives you everything you need right around you to get started. And so I mean, I like am a big time overthinker. And so, you know, I can get down like this whole huge rabbit trail of, oh, you know, it's got to be this and this and this, and this, but it's not. I mean, it's like just having a conversation with Al, like you just described, you know, having that conversation, or, you know, the Meekins maybe speaking up at their church about, this is a problem, you know, the lighting, or, I mean, there's a million ideas here, you know, and Bronwyn talking about the fence, you know, just how great it would be if we could have this, and then, you know, and then actually stepping out, and then that leads to the next big thing, which is like somebody else stepped up to provide funding and the means to get the whole thing fenced in. So, I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And consider this group your encouragers along the way. So if anybody is looking to have these conversations with their senior leadership, like, hey, practice on us, okay? Or, if you're feeling discouraged, reach out, because I know you all have been really helpful for me in, making some of these things happen along the way. So, so reach out if you need encouragement or assistance. Charla, hey.
Yes. Hi. I don't know how you would make this work for like epilepsy, but I couldn't help but think about my son's school. He has ADHD and dyslexia and went to a special school for it. Twice a year, they would host a night where parents came in and they put us through these little scenarios, these little deals, to kind of give us an idea of what our kids go through. Mm-hmm. The first one was, sorry, I'm sick. I kind of choked up here, but the first one was you had to trace over a star while looking in a mirror. You couldn't look at the star, and you had to do it with your non-dominant hand. And I about lost my mind trying to do that. And then they had us read from a book, and I was chosen to read. And some of the words weren't actually words. And so when I would pause, the teacher would get on to me or make fun of me to teach you what it's like to have the dyslexia. But the one thing I thought of on the little routines they put you through was you were given a sheet like you were going on a field trip, and you had to listen to the teacher and mark everything that she said you were seeing at the zoo. But in the meantime, they had background noise and somebody walking around and poking you in the shoulder and talking to you and distracting you. And I got very frustrated again because I couldn't even pay attention to what the teacher was saying, and only got 2 of the 25 things that she talked about. And so I went home and cried and hugged my son and told him how sorry I was for all the times that my husband and I had told him he could do better. He just wasn't trying hard enough, because it was absolutely frustrating. And if we could put our leadership through something like that to give them an idea of what sensory overload is like, it might help them to understand where you're coming from.
Wow, that sounds like a very impactful experience for you as a parent, even.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Barb, I see you nodding your head, and I know dyslexia is actually one of the things you're talking about like right now. So
oh yeah.
What do you have to share with us?
Well, I love what Charla said there, that absolutely, if you can do those any way you can get empathy and having people see it from other perspectives, you should do it. And yeah, we did just put out a video on dyslexia, so view it and share it with your leadership. But what I want to say too was, when you're trying to get senior leadership on board, I think a lot of times the conversation we have is, how do we get that lead pastor on board? But sometimes you might have someone who is really going to be difficult. So we also need to look at who can we bring with us. So not just going to the senior leadership, but who on the advisory team or your church board might have a vested interest, what other parents. So because when you get numbers of voices, then even those senior leaderships who maybe don't want to hear it might listen a little better. So I think that's another way we can approach it.
That's great. Yeah. So having a variety of voices is always helpful. So it's not just you giving the information or trying to get somebody on board, but bringing other voices into the conversation, I think, is always helpful. Barb, where can people find the video that you just mentioned?
Okay, so the video is in our Wonderful Works group. It's also, if you go to Wonderful Works Ministry on YouTube, all our videos are there. If you're in our Wonderful Works Facebook group, it was the last video that we, oh, actually, I know where it is. You can go on the SNAD group, and I posted it today on, Yeah, on the sharing your resources.
Oh,
So,
on the Market Monday post.
yeah, Market
Okay,
Monday,
so
I
there's 3
posted it.
places you can find it. So join the Wonderful Works Facebook group.
Mhm,
Go to YouTube and look for the Wonderful Works channel,
mhm.
or join, if you haven't already, the SNAD Leaders Forum. And if you don't know what that is, go to keyministry.org and look under resources for churches. But it's a Facebook group of over 2,000 ministry leaders.
Mhm.
And the link is in today's Market Monday post.
Mhm.
So Catherine has put in the chat the link to the SNAD Leaders group on Facebook. Also, she has mentioned that NAMI does a similar thing in their family to family class. So I'm guessing similar to the like that experience thing that Charlotte mentioned, to demonstrate how it is to live with different mental health conditions. Also, Doc Hunsley suggests families who want special needs ministry to invite the pastor over for dinner. Yeah. And see what the family experiences on a regular basis, just to kind of understand, different perspectives. So thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? I love this. We started with Easter and now we're like making change at the church. Yeah. All right. Who else has? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I,
Oh, yeah.
actually, yeah,
Alden
we do aim.
Brunman. Oh,
Go ahead.
Brunman.
Good.
Well, my friend from Dallas Seminary, he recommended this one book. It's called On the Spectrum: Autism, Faith, and Gifts of Neurodiversity. It's a 2001 book, so it's pretty new. It's by a prophet, Taylor University in Upland, Indiana, who was diagnosed with autism as an adult. And he's a poet and writer. And so I just finished it this morning, and I'm going to recommend it to my mission organization. I think in trying to understand neurodiversity, and especially autism in particular, it's very readable, and it just really helped me be more empathetic and understand more about adults with autism and different neurodiverse challenges, things like that. So I think anyone could benefit from this resource, which is really good.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah. Anytime we can, share resources, especially written from the perspective of a person who has the disability, that's super important. So thank you for sharing that. Can you hold it up and say it?
Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to look on my screen. All right, Bronwyn.
I was going to say, to your point of, how this conversation started with Easter and Palm Sunday and all of that, to like, yeah, let's change the church. I think this is why this group is so awesome, because like, I think we know that, it's not just this like one-time thing, right? It's not just Easter, right? It's not just the pandemic, right? It's like this whole like integrated approach. And so like, that's why I enjoy coming, for me, it's morning on a Monday morning, right? Because I feel like everyone has such different experiences, and everyone has like different perspectives. And I think, we're all, even though we're all in our own like local churches or local contexts, like we are all working together for like this actual like larger culture change. I think that's really cool. So yay, way to go.
Yay. Yes. And good morning for anybody else out on the West Coast. Good morning. It's very impressive that Bronwyn starts her morning with us on Mondays.
Oh, it's a good way to start. It's like everybody should do that.
All right. Anybody else? Yes, Allison.
Hey, yeah, I was just a quick question. I'm sort of tapping into everything that's being said. I'm very conscious that now we're pretty much post, dare I say it, post-pandemic. Norm is kind of vaguely back to what we recognize, and we've kept a few things going. So obviously here in Pennsylvania, and I'm thinking Sylvia's on, so I know she'll have some good ideas, but I know I still have 4 families and I just don't know when they're going to be able to come back. And I'm thinking has anybody else got any families? They know that's going to be the scenario. They're not going to be able to come back in person because their kids with disabilities are immunocompromised. They just can't go to big gatherings, which is, it's great. We're seeing more and more people back every week. But then I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know when these families are going to be able to come. Things like respite nights, they'll come to the drive-throughs, but they won't come the in-person. I was just wondering if there's anyone else who's got, I have some haphazard plans, but anyone else who's got some more sort of plans that would go a bit more than just maybe this month, maybe, I don't know, I'm sort of thinking of how with the buddy breaks, where I think maybe I need to approach them and say, can we come to you? But I don't know whether, again, they're even amenable to that yet. But anyway.
So I definitely see a couple hands raised. So Haley raised her hand, Abby raised her hand. Do either of you have anything? Abby, do you want to say something?
Yeah, we have a couple that we haven't seen. Now we're a nonprofit, so we work with a bunch of churches, but when we were so stuck during COVID because churches wouldn't let us use their spaces, we delivered respite, and we've done this a couple times since we've been back in person. We deliver everything to the house. We deliver a pizza, we deliver Capri Suns, we deliver the craft, we deliver, we tell them what movie we're watching. We've even put them on Zoom on the screen during a respite night so they can see their friends. And that has been really encouraging for some of these families, just to have it at their door, know that they're still loved, they're still part of it. They can see what's happening on the screen. So just taking it to them, like all the little components, and making that drop has been huge for some of our big families that can't make it back yet.
Thank you. Wow. It's extra effort, but it's, I think, obviously really, really appreciated. So.
And we also took a date night box for the parents to the house too,
Oh, nice.
so they could do their own thing on the side too.
So what was in that?
We dropped off LaCroix. We dropped off $20 Amazon cards so they could rent a movie. We took pasta and pasta sauce and just dropped it all off so they can make their own dinner, have their own kind of night, and not have to think about anything. So
very fun. I love that. Anybody else want to share on that subject?
I mean, it's more work, but like if I've got a kid that even before the pandemic is like too scared to come to like a group thing, just to go where they are, like it's an hour of your day to drive out and like take them for coffee or something, or even like take another person with you who's a part of the group. Like, yeah, I mean, just so that they feel a part of the group. And I honestly still have kids who won't even do that one-on-one, and it's super hard. So if anything, Allison, I get it. Like that sucks that that there's people that aren't ready yet and won't be ready for a while, and we can keep praying for them and trying to hang out one-on-one or like FaceTime them. But yeah.
Haley, you're Young Life Capernaum, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How are you? Do you like? What are you experiencing? Like, are people back 100%? Well, obviously not 100%, but are most of your students back?
It's interesting. We had a lot of kids come to our Zoom things like every week, where we would deliver like game supplies and stuff to their house so that when we came to the Zoom calls, they would have like things to come to the Zoom with. And a lot more people came to that than are coming in person. So I don't really know if that's a COVID thing or if it was just like a universal design thing, like all of a sudden we're going to them and they can come, or it was the only thing going on. I don't know. So I think programs are definitely starting back up, like Special Olympics is back, and like soccer, and we're starting to get some of those things back. But we dropped the mask mandate like yesterday. So it's been like COVID has still very much a part of the conversation, and we've had a smaller group for sure. So yeah, people are still hesitant, and it's not like the mask mandate dropped and everybody's like excited about it. There's still people who are nervous not to wear masks. So it's still very much part of the conversation.
Yeah. And
Haley, are you in Southern California?
Yeah, I'm in LA.
That's right. Yeah, I feel that mask situation. Yep.
All right, let me catch us up on what's going on over in the chat. So Barb did share the link to the dyslexia video, and I'm not going to read the link, but but we shared some. If you go to YouTube, and you'll be able to find it. Look for the Wonderful Works channel. And Al said, share the name of the book. So it's Daniel Bowman Jr. The book is called On the Spectrum, Autism, Faith, and the Gifts of Neurodiversity, published in 2021. So he was diagnosed with autism as an adult. He is a Christian, an author, poet, and associate professor of English at Taylor University in Upland, Indiana. At Taylor, they have developed SEND, Students for Education on Neurodiversity. SEND is dedicated to eradicating the stigma that surrounds neurodiversity of all sorts through education and awareness and encouraging healthy mental lifestyle. So very cool. I will definitely check out that book, Al. Thank you for sharing. All right, anything else? Sylvia, are you guys back in person? Thumbs up or thumbs down? No.
Well, we are, sorry I was late. But no, we are not, but we are anticipating opening up on April 3rd. We'll try this again. The mask mandate here is down. But what we're doing in terms of servicing our population is, first of all, polling the population to see what it is that they want and what are they available for. Mm-hmm. And then polling the volunteers to see who is willing to come back. And I think I have more volunteers that are willing to come back to do our respite program, which we use Buddy Break. But we're going to be probably modifying that a little teeny bit because people have been so absent of connection. I want to increase the services that we provide to them so that as opposed to being a once a month support, trying to increase gradually to 2 times a month. But again, getting feedback from the people who want the service and really emphasizing that we are not providing a service for individuals with disabilities, but we are providing a service with individuals with disabilities so that they are the ones that make the decision about what it is that the church provides for them, which is why we are inviting them wholeheartedly into the conversation about the services that we are going to be providing once we reopen. We're probably going to be doing a lot of soft starts, which probably won't happen until September with many of the ministries that we do, just to give ourselves time to get acclimated to the new environment that we're all going to be in, because everything is going to be a hybrid model where we probably will be having, with our respite program, we will probably have some opportunities where it will be in person only, and then other opportunities like every other week where it may be a virtual opportunity, because we have participants that are international, some in Florida, some in different places. So we still want to maintain the connection with those families. So that's what, and we're partnering with a lot of other, trying to partner with a lot of the other ministries in the church to just help them embrace and understand how we work with families and not just drag them along with whatever it is that we want to do. So that's where we are, and it's been a slow journey, and we're willing to move through this slowly because I never want to hurt anybody in any way or to make them feel like they are not important. And it's going to be very important as we move back in to make sure that families know that we are trying to do everything that we possibly can to support you and to make this be your ministry. It's not the leader's ministry. It is a ministry that the families can create.
I love that. I love the wording, this is ministry with, and also that you are polling the families and really getting their input. And way to persevere. I know it's been a very difficult 2 years. You're in PG County, right? Are you? Yeah, right now I'm in Montgomery County. Just for the next few minutes. As soon as we hang up, I have to drive back home. But yeah. All right. Well, anything else? Yes, Barb.
Just one more quick thing, and I apologize if this was already said because I was late, but going back to the conversation about advocating for universal design, keep in mind that when you talk to senior leadership or other people, it's helpful to first investigate and see what their initiatives are and see what their mission is and what their core values are. Because when we do this, it's not just about showing why it's important to families and to the disability community. You also want to show how it is helpful for the church. And when you do that, you have a much better chance of getting it moved forward. So that's just a reminder for everyone.
No, that's really good. And especially like if you can talk their language,
right?
Go ahead and use some of the actual wording that they're using as they're casting their vision. And I think that's going to improve your chances greatly.
It does. And another quick tip on that. So this is something that we have done in the past when, if you're doing an event and you're looking for community organizations to donate to you, what we would do was investigate what is their mission statement, what is their core value. And then when we write the letter, we start with that and then we show how our event supports that. And I really think that when we reverse our thinking, and we come from the perspective of the person that we want help from or collaborate with, it just helps. I think their ears perk up in a different way. So if no one said that before, just put that into your back pocket.
That is so true. So smart lady here. So listen to her. No, it's true. Like if you're telling somebody words that like they're saying,
yes.
listen to you. Yeah. So yes, and Catherine says, start with why. Yeah, that's really good. And if if your why addresses their mission,
I
love it. All right. I want to give anybody else have anything? Okay, so just a couple things for your calendars. So our virtual roundtable this month, so the third Wednesday, noon Eastern time, it's going to be kind of like what we do on our idea share, but we're actually going to talk about, okay, like it's been 2 years, because by then it'll literally be like almost to the day. And so that's what we're going to talk about this month. And then next month, we're going to be talking about doing a church plant, like starting with disability in mind. And I know, so that again, we're talking kind of universal design and some other things. So kind of taking a little bit about what we talked about today, but kind of launching it bigger. And we're going to have some people on that have had experience with a church plant. And Catherine has put in the chat the link to make sure, I think you guys probably are already getting these, but if you go to keyministry.org/events, you can make sure you're signed up for those. Also, IFL 2022 is next month. Yay. So, and I know many of you have already registered and I'm so excited to see you in person, IRL. So yes, there's early bird pricing through the end of this month. And so again, if you go to keyministry.org, you're gonna find IFL 2022. If you have any questions or anything, reach out to Catherine or me about that. We've got a lot of networking opportunities built in because we know how important this is, and being able to do it in person in real life is even better. So All right, thank you so much for your time this month. We'll be back the first Monday of April. Until then, hope to see you on one of the other roundtables, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.